Right, okay, so bit of a restorative class today. We're going to start just having a bit of a check-in. So come into your comfortable seat, and if you have a bolster to hand and you'd like to sit on your bolster or a blanket, then feel free to incorporate your props into your comfortable seat. The main thing you want to think about in your comfortable seat is allowing your spine to be upright and honouring the natural curve forwards of the lower and upper back and the natural curve backwards of the middle back. Your seat can be on your knees or cross-legged or with your feet out in front of you, whatever is most comfortable for your unique body. And then gently close your eyes. Just taking a moment to arrive in class. Really sense the position of the spine. Sense the position of the head balanced on top of the spine. And really feel your sit bones on the bolster or the ground beneath you. And then take your awareness to your breath. Simply watching it come and go in and out of the body. Noticing the length of the inhale, if you then have a pause, the length of the exhale, and notice whether you then have a pause before you take the next inhale. Just making a mental note of the character of your unique breath. Maybe visualizing a shape for your breath in your mind's eye. Inhaling up one side of the shape, pausing over the top of the shape, letting the breath fall out of the body as you come down the other side of your unique shape, and then sweeping onto the bottom of the shape with another pause. Letting the breath be as effortless as possible. And then notice that the longer you sit here watching the breath, the easier it becomes. Maybe the breath becomes deeper. Then take the awareness away from the breath and have a check-in with how the body feels today. Notice any emotions you may be feeling. Notice any areas within the body that are maybe holding tension or areas of sensation. And if there's nothing to be found, then simply notice the texture of the ground beneath your legs, the feeling of your clothes on your skin. And then gently flutter your eyes open. So our first pose is going to be with a focus on breathing into the chest and the belly. So I'm going to give you two options depending on where your areas of tension were in the body, or just simply what you fancy today. So option 1 is restorative fish. So bolster at the very, very lower of your back. Relax yourself back over the bolster, and legs can be long, they can be in reclined butterfly, or you can have them in constructive rest. So for this one, it's really about opening up through the middle and upper back. It's allowing the rib cage to come down either side of the bolster. So if you feel like you've got tightness in your middle and upper back, then this is the one for you. If, on the other hand, when you did your your mindful check-in at the start, you felt more sensation in your lower back, then legs up the wall is the one for you. Depending on what you fancy, you can either do legs up the wall with your bum on a bolster. You can move yourself next to a wall and rest your legs on the wall. Or if you don't want something that's quite such a deep inversion, then simply bring the feet to the floor and do supported bridge. So those are your options, either with a bolster beneath your hips, lower back, not lower back, the back of the pelvis, or have the bolster long to relieve pressure in the middle back. So choose whichever one suits where your body's at today, what you are fancying. And then get yourself really comfortable. In all options, your arms are down by your sides. If you're feeling really relaxed and open to whatever the rest of the day brings, then have your palms face up. And if you're feeling like you need to be more grounded and you want to feel stronger in your convictions, then have your palms face down. And then once you're comfortable in your pose, go back to the breath. Now in this pose, we're going to take a really deep, long inhale for 6. Have a short pause at the top, and then exhale for 8, and have a short pause at the bottom. So with your breath, try to make the inhale as strong on the first count as it is on the 6th count, and try and make the exhale even throughout the whole 8 counts. So exhale out any air you have in the body, then in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In. Out. In. Out. In. Out. In. in. Out. In. Out. Then take 6 breaths, nice and gently, letting the breath come and go as it pleases. And once you've done your 6 breaths, if you're laid in restorative fish, then roll off to the side. If you're in legs up the wall, then bring your feet to the floor, raise the hips, move the bolster out of the way, and make your way up to seated. Okay, so the next pose is restorative rabbit. So this is more about forward bend. Now, if you can sit on your heels quite comfortably, then feel free to sit on your heels. If the range of motion in your knees, that ends up putting strain on your knees, then you can either put a cushion or you can use the bolster and just sit on the bolster so that your knees aren't flexed quite so severely. Whichever way you choose, you want your knees wider than your hips. And we'll bring our elbows basically to the inside of our knees. So if you've got the bolster, then that's absolutely fine. But if you don't need the bolster, then flick it out the way. So our elbows are as close to the inside of our knees as we can get them. From here, as we inhale, really round through the back, trying to reach the middle back up towards the ceiling. So we're going from a straight back to a raised back, and really expand the breath into the back of the lungs. And then exhale, just relax and release that off a little. So inhale, really reach the middle back up towards the ceiling, breathing into the back of the lungs. And then exhale, release that off. So inhale, really lift the middle back up towards the ceiling, breathing into the back of the lungs. And then exhale, release it off a little. If it's comfortable on your neck, then you can let your head hang down towards the floor. If you prefer to look at the floor and have your head raised a little, do what suits your neck best. So inhaling into the back of the lungs, rounding through the back. And then exhale, release that off. Inhaling into the back of the lungs. And then exhale to soften. Really rounding through that back as you inhale. Rounding through the shoulders, filling the back of the lungs. And then exhale, release it. Inhaling into the back of the lungs. Rounding through the shoulders. Exhale, release. Inhale to round. Exhale to release. Do 6 more breaths like this in time with your own inhales and exhales. And once you've done your 6 breaths, come up onto your hands and then gently roll the back all the way up to seated. Beautiful. It's a really good one for opening up the back of the lungs, which we don't often focus about breathing into. Okay, so next one's a twist. We love a good twist. I'm going to give you some options. You can either do a reclined twist, where we start off a little bit like we did in restorative fish. Arms out of the way, hug the knees in, roll them over to the side. So it's a very gentle twist. Or if you'd rather be face down, then put the bolster at your hip, tuck the legs up, and then align your chest over the bolster, and you're aiming for the center of your chest to hit the bolster. And then you can either have your head the same way, or to increase the twist, take your head the opposite way. We're obviously going to do both sides, and the breath is quite restricted in a twist. So we're going to focus more on where our tight spots are rather than where we are going to hold the breath. So I'm going to go the other way so that I can see you both this way. Okay, so pick your twist, whether you want to be reclined or whether you'd rather be prone. And then relax completely on your bolster. If you don't have a bolster, you can still do this just on your mat or on a couple of cushions or a rolled up blanket. And then take the awareness to anywhere in your body that you might be feeling tension or pressure or sensation. And then really squeeze that part of the body on your inhale. Really make it as tight as you possibly can. And then on the exhale, soften it down onto the bolster or the floor beneath you. So as you inhale, give that area a good squeeze. And then on the exhale, really soften and release it onto the mat or the bolster. One more time on your inhale, really squeeze any areas of tension. And then on the exhale, soften and release. And then enjoy 6 breaths here, completely relaxing in your twisted pose. Then if you're laying face down, lift the head first, bring the hands either side of the bolster and use your arms to push yourself back up to seated. If you're reclined, then just roll off to the side and then we'll move over to the other side. If you're feeling super lazy and you're reclined, then just bring the legs to the centre and be ready to go over to the other side. Okay, so if you're reclined, then hug the knees into the chest and then roll them the other way. And if you're face down like me, then align your bolster next to your hip, tuck your legs around, one hand either side of the bolster, and aim for that middle point of your chest to land on the bolster. And then if you want to, Turn your head to the left as well, then turn your head to the opposite side. So your head's the opposite side of your legs if you want the full twist. And then get yourself really comfortable. So if you need to have a fiddle or a little wiggle around until you're really comfy, then have a little wiggle around. And then think about those tight spots again. They might be somewhere a little bit different this side. On your next inhale, any tight spots you can find, give them a little squeeze. And then on the exhale, completely soften those areas. So inhale, give any of those tight spots a little squeeze. And then exhale, soften and release. One more time. Inhale, really squeeze any tight spots you've got left in the body. Really contract all the muscles around them. And then on your exhale, completely relax and soften. And then take 6 deep breaths in this pose, being as relaxed as you possibly can. And then gently lifting your head if you're face down. Use your hands either side of the bolster to push yourself back up to seated. If you're reclined, then roll over onto your side and gradually come up to seated. Good stuff. Okay, so we've done a forward fold, we've done a backward bend, we've done a twist to one side and a twist to the other side, so we need to finish with a lateral stretch. So it's up to you whether you'd like to lay on the mat and do banana asana, which, as you know, is a lovely laid on the floor approach where literally you shoot your shoulders over to the right, you shoot your legs over to the right, but you imagine like you're trapped between 2 pieces of glass, so everything stays very, very flat on the floor. Your hip stays down, your shoulder stays down, and you breathe into the ribs. So we're obviously going to do both sides. So banana asana is your very restorative, chilled out option. Or we can do a seated lateral bend. She says now she's thrown her bolster out of the way. So you have your bolster by your side. Legs can eat. I prefer to have one leg in front of the other. I'm going to use my bolster to rest my elbows so it's partly restorative. And then I reach the other arm over. So there's a lot going on here. We're stretching into the hip, we're stretching into the side body. On both options, we're breathing into those ribs. So if you're doing banana asana, shoulders and feet scuttle over to the right, we're breathing into the left ribs. If you're doing the seated bend, our bolster is against our right leg and we're going to reach the arm over towards the left. Excellent. Whichever one you've chosen, really think about getting that breath into the ribs, really expanding into all the intercostal muscles, all the muscles in between each of your ribs. Keeping yourself as flat as possible if you're laid on the floor in banana asana. And if you're doing the seated version, then the armpit wants to stay open towards the ceiling. And then take 6 deep breaths here. Then once you've done your 6 deep breaths, just bring yourself back to neutral. So if you're laid in banana asana, shuffle yourself back to center. And if you're sat, then just sit up nice and straight. If you're sat, move the bolster out of the way, swing the legs around to the other side, and then move the bolster around next to your left leg. If you are laid on the floor, then shuffle your shoulders and your arms over to the left, and then shuffle your feet over to the left. So then when we're sat, we're reaching towards the bolster with our left arm, and we reach the right arm up and over. So everybody is breathing into the right side of the rib cage this time. So keeping yourself as flat on the floor as possible, or if you're sat, keeping your armpit open towards the ceiling. Take 6 nice deep breaths into the ribs and the intercostal muscles on this side. And then once you've taken your 6 deep breaths, either shuffle yourself back to center if you're in banana asana, or reach the arm up and over if you're sat. And then we'll come into final savasana. So if you want to be really super luxurious today, then bring the bolster underneath the back of the knees. And then gently lay yourself back into Savasana. Let the knees be hip width apart, maybe even a little bit more. And then let the feet fall out to the sides, which should feel really restorative for your lower back. Then your hands can either be on your hips, on your lower belly, one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly, or maybe down by the sides, either palm up or palm down. Whatever takes your fancy today. Whatever feels most comfortable for you. Tuck your shoulders underneath your torso. Let the head be fully supported by the ground beneath you. And then just completely relax in your Savasana pose. Enjoying the weight of your body as it presses down into the mat. Giving yourself these few moments to stimulate the rest and digestive nervous system, which is really important to spend time doing to be happy and healthy. Taking a moment to let the body seal the practice that you've just done. Then take the awareness back to your breath. Just watching the inhales, the exhales, and the pauses in between. Noticing how your breath moves through your body and the shape that it makes. Noticing whether that shape is the same shape and size as it was at the start of class or whether it's changed slightly. Letting the breath be as smooth and easy as it can possibly be. The only slight effort is on the inhale as we push to expand the ribcage. And then on the exhale, simply let the breath fall out of the body. And as you lay here, just observe whether you're able to lay here focused on the breath, completely consumed by watching the breath, or whether the brain is more agitated, maybe thinking about what you want to have for lunch or the things you need to get done this afternoon. Not judging it in any way, just giving you a sense of how well activated your rest and digest system is. Simply giving yourself a sense of whether you are here in the moment watching the breath, or whether the brain is trying to distract you thinking about the future. And then when you're ready, start to think about moving. If you want to. I mean, maybe you just want to stay laid in the sunshine, it's pretty gorgeous. But if you do have to move, then move in a way that your body wants to. Maybe a single finger or toe, or maybe a bigger movement. Maybe rolling the head from side to side or hugging the knees in. Move in whatever way your body is asking. And then when you're ready, roll over onto your side and come up to seated. And your practice is done for this lunchtime. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.